Hi folks, Mike Lambo here, and I am going to play through a mission from, or a scenario I should say, from Rifle Squad, the British Home Guard. This is a system which is very similar to Rifle Squad US at Omaha Beach, but you are very much on the defensive, and there are some significant rule changes and personnel differences as well. Many of those differences I've already set out in the quick look video for the game, so you might want to have a quick look at that if you like. This is meant to be the instructional playthrough video, and I will go through a lot of the rules, but it might not be quite as comprehensive as normal because I've done Rifle Squad US at Omaha. You can get a good feel for how this game works by watching that video, but I appreciate if you've bought this game without that game, then you're probably looking for a instructional playthrough video for this game. So it's sort of balancing act. I don't really want to have to repeat every single rule as I go through, but I'll certainly be talking quite a lot about the mechanics and things as we go. As ever, I would always recommend you read the rule book through once at least before watching this video anyway, just so you can kind of go along with me as we go. So this is scenario Arrival C. So there are 3 arrival scenarios, which is obviously when the Germans arrive. There are 3 inland scenarios where they sort of push on, and there are 3 final scenarios where you've got a sort of final objective to achieve as the British. As in Omaha, you can play this as a campaign, in which case you piece 3 of those, one each of those 3 scenario types together randomly to create your own sort of mini campaign. I'm playing this as just a one-off mission to show how it goes. So I've chosen this one because I like this particular, I like them all of course, but I do find this one particularly challenging. So we've got a sort of beach or sea arrival then, if you like. There's a arrival there which is they're kind of already on the beach mostly for that one, which doesn't make too much difference, but just general different terrain and so on to go at. This one is called At the Estuary, and you see why. There's actually a river up here. So we've got sea hexes at the top and inland water hexes here. So the difference is you can enter sea hexes but not the deeper inland water hexes. And I've just put a note on the map actually just for clarity there, so players can see very clearly that the sea hexes sort of end there, and these are the inland water hexes. So that obviously has the effect of splitting the map in half, which is instantly a nuisance and a challenge. There is a bridge, of course, here, which can only be entered from the 2 road hexes either side of it, so you can't sort of come in here or here. It acts, other than that, acts as a clear hex, as it says up here. So it says the bridge is a clear hex and can only be entered from or exited to the 1 adjacent clear road hex at each end. The scenario ends in defeat immediately if there are ever 2 German soldiers, whatever their status, so it doesn't matter if they're pinned, for example, below the red line at the same time. So we've got a red sort of dotted line across here. We need to stop there, or prevent there ever being 2 German soldiers positioned below this line at any time. And to win, that's to avoid defeat, we need to stop that. So obviously if that happens, we lose. But to win, we need to avoid defeat and move the last surviving British off the bottom of the map during turn 12. Okay, so the British Home Guard are very much there to defend the shores and sort of delay any German invasion until regular forces can get there. So the idea here is we're doing as much as we can, but then at the end of the day, we are going to retreat back to the next sort of strong point, if you like. But we must be clear about this. It says move the last surviving British off the bottom of the map during turn 12. So it doesn't matter if we lose any British soldiers here. We'll say it doesn't matter because it makes the job harder, because we don't want to do that. But if any are killed in action, that doesn't in itself prevent us winning. But we have to get all the surviving British, whether they're injured or pinned or whatever, off the map. And the last one of those has to be moved off during turn 12, okay, so where the capital red R is, which is here. So not before, although you can start retreating where these small R's are. So in other words, from turn 9, we can start moving our guys off the bottom of the map, not before. But not until turn 12 can we move the last one off, okay, otherwise we're not delaying the invasion enough. okay, to put it thematically. And the Germans are going to appear at the top. Obviously, they're coming by sea here, they're going to land, and they're going to move down the map. I've positioned my forces already here, so I've got these 10 guys who constitute my squad, or rifle section if you prefer. Similar to Omaha, I've got a sergeant here who rolls 3 order dice and takes the highest. We've got a Corporal Smith here, Sergeant Hull. We've got Corporal Smith who rolls 2 dice, order dice, and takes the highest. And we've got Lance Corporal Beck, so just the 1 corporal this time. He's in the bar team. He rolls 1 die for orders, but has the option always to re-roll it. Okay, so you can always choose to re-roll it if you want, but you must keep the re-rolled score, of course. We've got a Private Lines who has a submachine gun, along with Corporal Smith himself, who has a submachine gun as well. So we didn't have submachine guns at Omaha in this game, but we do here. It can be quite useful. A short range, of course, 2 hexes, but they do roll 3 dice, which is quite useful for 1 order. We've got a sniper now as well, rolls 4 dice, has a good range, 1 to 5 hexes, but does take 2 orders to fire. Got a medic, same as before as we did at Omaha. Got the bar team, which works in the same way. We've allocated the bar to Private Johns, leaving Private Davis with a rifle and Lance Corporal Beck with a rifle as well. Got Private Mills, who just has a rifle. And everyone has grenades other than the sniper and the bar team. Okay, everyone else has got hand grenades. I have no grenade launchers, you'll notice, as I did at Omaha, which is a shame because they're useful, but there we go. Okay, there are a few, let's say there's quite a few sort of changes and things, but generally the system works the same. So let's crack on. So there are 4 phases to a turn here. And the first phase is always the enemy appearance phase, if you like, or enemy arrival phase. So what we do is we check for the turn. We're on turn 1. The little grey number there is a 2. So that means we have to go through the arrival process twice. Okay, so the arrival process generally consists of rolling on the enemy type chart here, as it similar to how we revealed potential enemy markers at on the Omaha game. So we roll 2d6. I rolled a 3. It's interesting. So 3 is actually H. We cross-refer H over to the chart here, and we can see that that is a Messerschmitt. Yeah, good start. In terms of placing that, so the next thing is to work out the location. The location of a Messerschmitt, simply roll a d6 and place it in that column. So we'll do that, and that's a 3. So we'll put the Messerschmitt in column 3. Now, German forces usually appear on the numbered hex itself, because they're landing, obviously, and working their way down. What happens with Messerschmitts is they're actually going to attack. If they're still on the board at the end of the right at the end of the turn in phase 4, they will attack all British forces in this column. Now, you can still leave the plane at the top there. Really, it's just a temporary marker marking which column they're going to attack. So you can leave it somewhere at the top if you like. What I find, though, is if you do, you tend to be out of sight, out of mind, and then you move all your guys, and then you only realise, you kind of forget and think, oh, hang on, there's a Messerschmitt coming. So what I tend to do is actually place it quite far down, right in front of my face. But it is, you know, coming in here, it's attacking potentially all these hexes. Now, actually, that's a pretty good place for it to come. Obviously, it wouldn't be great if I had people on the bridge. It's unlikely I'm ever going to have any of my guys up here. It's too far up the map, really. But generally, that's not going to cause me any problem, especially on this first turn. So I can actually pretty much ignore him. On the other hand, I could put somebody into the AA gun and shoot him down, or try to shoot it down. The advantage of shooting it down is that the Germans only have 3 of these per scenario. Okay, so there are only 3 counters. If I don't shoot it down, it effectively flies off and, you know, lives to fight another day, and it may reappear. So in other words, it goes back to the pool of Messerschmitts. If I shoot it down, on the other hand, it's removed from the scenario entirely, and they've only got 2 left. And it's certainly not unusual to destroy all 3 Messerschmitts in a scenario, saving your guys from any further air attacks. So that's something to think about. But for now, I'll just place that in column 3. And it's not actually going to attack anybody, but we might have a go at shooting it down. So remember, we're doing this process twice because the grey number was a 2 under here. So we now roll again. Now that's a 10, which is G, and a G is in fact an officer. Okay, an officer here. So again, we roll for the column, for location, and that officer gets a 1, so he starts over there. Okay, so nice and simple. Some of the enemy roles, like 7 here, for example, is A plus A, so you'll get 2 soldiers appearing there. If that happens, you still do the second of the 2 processes. You know, you do the process twice. It doesn't mean you're going to place necessarily 2 soldiers. In fact, you can see here I've placed 1 soldier on 1 plane, but the grade 2 means you do the process twice. So in theory, I could get a 7 and then another 7, so I could end up placing 4 soldiers along the top. Okay, so the grey is the number of processes you carry out, number of times you do the arrival process. So I've done that twice now. Once produced a Messerschmitt, once produced an officer. So that's them done. And then the Germans go. Okay, so again, the charts are set out in the order that you do things. So we've got the arrival bit up here, and then we've got the German activation or AI phase here, so we'll do that next. Okay, so as we did with Omaha, we work through this in the order it's printed. We're going to start at the top here and ask ourselves, are there any engaged Germans that are engaged with the British, and that means they're in the same hex as them, and the answer is no. And then we're going to look for any German officers. None of this, by the way, applies to the Messerschmitt, of course. It has its own attack phase down here after we've moved, importantly, so we get a chance to shoot it down before it attacks us, or move out of the way, of course, as well. Sometimes, you know, dive for cover thematically, I suppose, you know, run like mad and bury yourself in the woods or something. So the next thing we say is, have we got any German officers on the board? Yes, we have. So as we did in Omaha, just simply roll a d6 and do whatever it says. So we've got a 2 there, and that's actually a Messerschmitt. Okay, now again, in the theme of this doesn't necessarily mean that this officer has called in air support. It may be that he's got, if he's perhaps a senior officer or whatever, maybe he's got some method of communicating with, you know, the other German forces and things. It's more likely thematically just to mean that, you know, there are officers coming on. That means this is quite a serious point of attack for the Germans, and therefore they are supporting that quite well with air attacks. So we have another Messerschmitt. He's calling in a Messerschmitt. So it says Messerschmitt, place at column D6. So in the same way as we did before, we're rolling a D6 and we're placing it now. It's got a 3, and that's okay. So we're going to place that again at column 3. Okay, so we've got 2 Messerschmitts now coming down here, and they would, you know, as I say, at the end of the turn, they will attack everybody in that column. Fortunately for me, I've rolled 3 twice, and that's the most harmless column I've got on the board, really. So that's worked out okay. It then says whether that was possible or not. So it might not have been possible, for example, if he'd run out of Messerschmitts. Find cover. But there's a reminder here that says not in the sea. You know, you can't find cover in the sea on this game, so he stays where he is, and he won't find cover because you can't do that in the sea. And that's it for the Germans, because that's all they've got. So now it's my turn. So I can think about these Messerschmitts or not, whatever. Let's start over here. So I've got over here, you know, I've had to split my forces really. I mean, I need some defense over here. I suppose I could have come across the bridge, but there's lots of cover over here, nice thick woods. But I am aware that these are quite cut off, particularly if I get an injury. You know, if I start getting casualties over here, my medic is miles away, and to get over here, he's got to get across this bridge, which is, you know, a bit of a journey round as well. So I want to be really careful with these guys. I'm going to play it really cautiously with them. I've got the sniper to give me some firepower. I've got Lyons and Smith to give me some really strong close-up firepower, because remember, woods in this game and hills block line of sight, so the chances are that if the Germans do send any troops down this side, I'm likely to, or it may well be possible for me to get involved in quite a short distance, or close range, I should say, firefight. So my SMGs could be useful for that. I've also got Don, who's the engineer. He can lay mines. And again, as with Messerschmitts, there are 3 mines that Don starts the game with. So you can only lay a mine 3, or you can only lay 3 mines. That's usually enough for each scenario. So I might want to just mine this area as well. And then maybe think about moving some of my guys away. But we'll see how it plays out. See which side the Germans attack. So I'm going to go with Corporal Smith first. He gets the best of 2d6, as it says here. So roll 2d6. He's got a 5, so he gets 5 orders. And he's going to, I think, for now, just advance. So for 3 orders, we move all these up. So there's 1 order each for a move. Move means move one hex to an adjacent hex. So 1, 2, 3. And lions will move as well. That's 4. We'll have lions look for some cover in there. So finding cover works as it did with Omaha. So as a reminder, woods, says here, is a 3+ to find cover. He's rolled a 2 and therefore he's failed somehow to find cover. And it gets the cover from the woods, remember. Gets cover from the woods. So woods will still give him a basic -2 on his save. We'll look at that once we start getting into action. But what it means is he was looking for somewhere, you know, particularly good cover within those woods. Hasn't found that yet. I'm sure he will do. He hasn't done yet. That's the 5 orders used over there. Let's go with Beck. So he rolls a 6. So obviously I'm not going to re-roll that. So he's got 6 orders. And I think what we're going to do here is we are going to move Private, because I've got so many orders for him. I'm going to move Private Davis into the AA gun emplacement. Now these emplacements are always buildings hexes, because they always have buildings on them. So they're classed as a buildings hex, just like these are. This is a bunker. These are hills, or higher ground as they're called. These are trees and these are woods. Okay, so we've got Davis into the AA gun hex. That's 1 order used. And then we're going to have him fire at the Messerschmitts. So we're going to use 2 orders for that. As it tells me on here, AA gun, 2 orders. The range is 1 to 5. Sorry, 1 to 6. Now I can use that to fire in the normal way at German ground units, but the maps are designed, to be honest, so that to make this not too sort of overly powerful. Usually the range is not too effective. So for example, because when you're firing at ground units, line of sight works in the usual way as it did for Omaha, which means you can only see along straight lines of hexes. So this AA gun, when firing at ground units along the ground, effectively is blocked by his line of sight. It goes into these woods but stops there. It goes into these woods and stops there, and it goes into those woods and stops there. So you can only, you know, it's got quite a limited effect, but it can be useful in certain situations. You know, if Germans come out of this bunker into these woods, then you know it's going to be very powerful to do that. But more often you'll probably be using it, as he is here, to shoot at planes. So we get, for an AA gun attack, we get 6 dice, and when we're shooting at Messerschmitts, you can't pin them. Probably goes without saying, doesn't it? So when you're remember, when you're attacking in this game, we're only interested in 6s and 5s. 6s are potential hits, 5s are pins. Okay, the planes have no cover and they have no save. Okay, so we just need a 6 to hit a Messerschmitt. We get 6 dice. We don't have to say which one we're firing at, even if they're in different columns. We don't need line of sight to them, because remember, really they could be anywhere in this column. We don't line of sight goes out the window. We don't need to have that. We're now shooting up into the sky. Davis is giving it his best. He's got a couple of planes coming towards him, and he's having a go at them. But we could do that again if this one was actually in this column. He could still be shooting potentially at them both. You know. So you get 6 dice, and we're looking for 6s, and we get 1 6. We get 1 6. We're ignoring the 5s because we can't pin them. We get 1 6. So we've destroyed one of those. So what I'm going to do is move that out of the way completely. The other one I'll leave on the map for now. And just as always, as was true in Omaha, remember, each soldier can only perform each action once per impulse. Okay, remember, the impulses are these little leader actions, or activations. So we've had Smith's impulse. We're now doing Lance Corporal Beck's impulse. So he's got 6 orders. Remember, he's moved Davis into there for 1. He's used 2 more for Davis to fire. So Davis has moved and fired, so he can't move again in this impulse, and he can't fire the AA gun again. He could fire his rifle, of course, but not at the Messerschmitt. So he's still got 3 orders. Now, he could move Johns into there and have Johns fire the AA gun. But I'm not sure. Do I want to do that? I don't know if I do, really. I suppose it's not a chance, isn't it? I don't think I've ever had 2 Messerschmitts on the first turn before like that. So the temptation is to try and get rid of them. I think I might do that, actually. Let's push Johns into there for 1, and then for the last 2, I think we'll do the same again. Let's have him fire at the Messerschmitt as well. And yes, we get the 6 that we needed. And so we've killed, or we've blown out of the sky 2 Messerschmitts, basically sorted out their air support to a large degree already in the first turn, which is good news. And that's the end of that impulse. The final impulse then is for us is Sergeant Hull. He gets to roll 3 dice. Oh, wow, look at that. He gets to roll 3 dice and take the highest. So 1 order, that doesn't happen very often. So he gets 1 order, and I think all he'll do is get Mills to push up into the woods ahead for now. Because what I really want to do is get to this bunker. Bunkers, if you've played Omaha, you'll know are very, very strong. So this is a key point in this game. If the Germans get here, that gives them some really good support for then getting guys below this red line. If we get there, we can at least sort of hold out. And it's well placed, this bunker. These buildings don't block line of sight, so this, and nor do the trees. So this bunker can shoot all the way down here. It can shoot there, obviously, and it can shoot all the way across this beach as well, this side of the beach. So, you know, through there is really particularly powerful. Get them as they come out of the sea with no real cover here. You know, a few trees there, but generally not much cover. So that is a good place to be, particularly if we can get the bar in there. Okay, that's the end of my turn. So then it would be the Messerschmitt phase, but we've blown them both out of the sky, which is great, but they wouldn't have done anything anyway. But they would have survived and gone back into the pool, but because I've destroyed them, they won't. And that's the end of the turn. So we're now on to turn 2. And again, you can see there's a grade 2 under there. Basically, it's 2 every turn on this map. 2 arrival processes, if you like, every turn right up to turn 7 and including turn 7. So back to phase 1, Germans. Let's see what comes this time. Okay, this time it's an 11. We're rolling slightly off the above and below the averages here, so we're getting slightly unusual units. So 11 is actually a heavy machine gunner. So they're already bringing the heavy weapons ashore, despite not really, you know, got the invasion underway yet. So HMG goes there in the second hex, and then the second process is a 9, and that's a light machine gun, and that's going to go at 3. Wow. Okay. So a slightly unusual beginning. I mean, the bad thing for me, of course, is that these are heavy weapons. You've got an officer who may well call in more airstrikes, or at least another airstrike. The good thing is that actually these tend to be less mobile units, so the officer will move fairly cautiously, and these guys do as well. The LMG moves a little bit quicker, but the HMG is generally a pretty slow-moving thing, and you know, it's there really to provide support, of course. So we haven't really got any fast-moving troops on the ground yet, which is good, because once the rifle guys appear, and the SMGs and so on, they tend to move pretty quick down the board, and you need to get rid of them, get yourself into action. So yeah, it's okay, I can deal with that. So let's do the German turn. So there's nobody who's engaged. Then we have a German officer on the board, so let's roll for him again. He gets a 6 this time, so this time he will move down, but it says to a woods or buildings hex only. Okay, so he would only move into, you know, one of these woods hexes or into one of these 2 buildings hexes. It says whether he moved or not, find cover, but not in the sea. So again, he won't do that because he can't move down. He's in the sea, so he won't find cover. Then we move down to the next sort of, we have got snipers, we've got no rifle guys, no SMGs. So we're down here now to HMG, LMG. And you see they've got their own little chart this time. So I think just to make it slightly clearer than it perhaps was on Omaha, they were sort of merged in with these. I managed to move this one into a separate chart. I had room on the page to do that. So we've now got HMG, LMG, and we start, remember, as we did with Omaha, we always go front to back and then left to right. So whoever's furthest down goes first. So this LMG will go first. Again, roll a die. Get a 3. So it's for an HMG fire, but it's an LMG. So this time the LMG will move straight down. Okay, that means exactly what it says. So he'll move only to that hex, which he can do. So if he couldn't do that for any reason, then he wouldn't move anywhere else. Okay, just move straight down. That's it. It says, move straight down if that hex has no British on it. Okay, it's got no British on it, so he'll move there. And then it says whether moved or not, fire. So he's now looking for a target. Remember, his line of sight will run down there. it'll run down there, and it'll run straight down the river there. But there are no British on any of those, so he can't see anybody, so he won't fire, which is good for us. Line of sight also goes backwards, of course, but that's rarely an issue in this game. Well, it can be later on when we get too close, but at the moment it's not. And then the HMG rolls a 4, and 4 is simply 4 to 6 says fire. If no target, find cover, but not in the sea. So again, he won't do anything. Okay, so we've got some advance. They're on the beach to some degree, setting up an LMG there, and we're very much targeting the left-hand side. So we'll see how that goes. So over to me. I think I might start over this side this time. Let's go with Private Beck. Sorry, Lance Corporal Beck. He gets a 1, so I'm going to re-roll that. He gets a 5. Obviously, if you're rolling 1s and 6s, it's obviously, you know, you're gonna re-roll or not re-roll, but it can be tricky sometimes. You know, if you're rolling 2, 3, 4, 5, particularly 3s and 4s, and you kind of need an extra order, but you don't really want to lose it. The decision itself to re-roll can be an interesting one. So he's got 5 orders. So this time I think we're going to push forward. No point staying in the A. At least we're going to push the bar forward. Do we leave Davis in there just on the off chance that that last message summit might appear at some point? Perhaps we'll push him up for now. So that's 2. Can we bring him back? That's 2 if he didn't go any further than that, of course. In fact, no, let's push him into there. Okay, so we'll push Johns into there, we'll push Davis into there. That's 2 moves, 2 orders done. Then we'll push Beck up himself. That's for another order. Okay, just moving costs 1 order, remember. As a reminder, these leaders, as they're called, can order anybody who is of a lower rank than themselves. So Lance Corporal Beck can order any of the privates. And Corporal Smith can order all the privates, and the Lance Corporal and the Sergeant can order anybody. And then I think what we'll do is we've got 2 more orders here, so we might as well look for some cover on here. Okay, to find cover in trees, you need a 4+. We failed to do that. That was John's doing that, let's say, so now we'll order Davis to do the same. Needs a 4+, he gets a 4+. So they have found cover in these trees. So we place a cover token in there. Okay, now I could do that action more than once because 2 different soldiers were doing it. So the corporal can order the action more than once, but each soldier can only perform it once per impulse. Okay, but fortunately I've got 3 soldiers now. If it failed again and I had another order left, then Beck could have looked for cover himself. We found cover. It goes in the hex, which means they all benefit from that -1 cover. So now they get the benefit of the cover from the trees, plus another -1 from the extra cover they've found. Okay, in other words, the 3 of them are perhaps all, leaning up behind a great, thick, strong tree or something. Let's do Sergeant Hull. He gets 5 orders, so he will, I think, order Mills up into these buildings. This hill here is higher ground, blocks line of sight, so don't need to worry too much about anyone shooting him from over there. Mills is fairly safe in there, so we'll push him into there. I can't then order him to find cover because he's now out of ordering range. Okay, you can only order soldiers who are on the same hex as or adjacent to the leader giving the orders. Okay, so Sergeant Hull will now need to move up in order to order Mills. So that's 1 order. We're going to order Ali to move up into the woods for another order. That leaves 3. And then Sergeant Hull himself is going to move up. So that leaves 2. For 1 order, he's going to order Private Mills to find cover in those buildings. And to do that, we need a 3+, which he gets. So he sort of nestles himself, rather than just sort of, hiding behind or around the corner of a building or whatever. He's actually gone into a building now and found a nice convenient window or something to be looking out of. And then for the final order, we'll order Ali to find cover in the woods, which also needs a 3+, and that's also successful. So we're getting plenty of cover over there. Feeling pretty good about all that. Slow progress. We need to get into that bunker as soon as we can, but we're not far off already. And then finally, then Corporal Smith. Best of 2 dice, you get 6 orders as well. Rolling pretty well on the orders front, I have to say. Okay, just got to be aware that this HMG, if it gets on top of this hill, on top of this higher ground, which is a sand dune, I suppose, he will be able to see over these trees. So he would then be able to shoot, potentially he's got a range of 0 to 5. So if he was on here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he'd be able to shoot the whole way down this row of hexes. Because he'll be able to see over all these woods into any hex he likes, because he's on higher ground, even though they usually block line of sight. But HMGs won't move and then fire. LMGs can, as we saw last time, but HMGs don't. So I'm fairly safe from that, but nonetheless, just got to bear that in mind. So what are we going to do here? I think I'm going to push Hope and Don. Actually, I'm not going to. Am I going to push Hope and? Yeah, let's push them up into the woods. That's for 2. And then I'm going to use the mine, because he's still adjacent to Smith, I can still order Don. So I'm going to use the mine order. It takes 2 action, sorry, the mine action. It takes 2 orders. So that'll put me down to 2. And he's going to plant a mine. And you put that in any adjacent hex which is vacant of all soldiers. So Don, you know, sort of creeps forward and puts a mine on this road in these woods here or something, in the hope that someone's going to tread on that. So that's that. Mines will be triggered by any soldier who enters the hex. So you've got to be a little bit careful. You don't want to be putting onto hexes that you want to get into at a later time. You can't retrieve mines once they're down. Right? You put them down in the haste of battle. We don't really quite sure where they are. We're not going to put little flags there or anything, are we? I'd also quite like to mind that one, but we're a bit far away from that yet, and it's probably going to be difficult to get too close. Well, maybe it's, but we can't do it this turn, obviously, because Don can only do that once per impulse, and we've only got 2 orders left anyway. So now we should probably do some more looking for cover. So we're going to order Private Don to find cover. He needs a 3+ in the woods, and he gets a 6, so he finds cover in there, which is useful. And then he's going to order Lions to find cover, and he does so as well in those woods. Okay. So again, feeling fairly confident about all this. That's me done. German Messerschmitt phase, there aren't any, so we don't do that obviously, and we move to turn 3. Go through the arrival process twice. So first time we get a 5, and that's a D, which is a German sniper. Again, we're still rolling sort of slightly, 6, 7, 8 is obviously the most common rolls of a die. I haven't rolled any of those yet. So the sniper appears at 2, definitely focusing on this left-hand side. And the second process gives me a 3, wow, which is a Messerschmitt, and that comes at 5. Okay, so this time it's coming at this column, which is a bit more of a nuisance. And again, I'm going to place that down here. I usually put it sort of between 2 hexes, just to remind me it's not really on a hex, it's just on a column, but whatever. Just put it somewhere that's convenient, as long as it's in the right column. So I'm going to pull that there, just to remind me there's a Messerschmitt coming. And then we do the German phase itself, of course. So we have any that are engaged, there aren't any. German officers, there's just 1 up there, so we roll a 1. Now he wants to call in a Messerschmitt, unfortunately for him. There aren't any in reserve. We've blown the other 2 out of the sky, and this one is already in action. So he won't do that. It says, whether possible or not, find cover. So he would have found cover, but he won't because he's in the sea. It says not in the sea. So that's him done. Then we move down to the sniper. He gets a 1, and that says, move down. Down always means down as the player looks at it, to a hex. So he can only, we know straight away, he can only move to one of these 3 hexes here. You know, they're all down from his own position. That one, and that one. He's moving down the map. It doesn't say straight down in this case, just down. So any one of those 3, you know, the rules explain that nice and clearly. So move down to a hex which has no British in it. All right, now that's the instruction, which is not in square brackets. So that's what he would try to do. So move down to a hex which has no British in it. So if there were British in two of these hexes, he would automatically move to the third hex. You know, there's no question, no need to worry about anything else. He'll never move into a hex that has British in it, because that's the key instruction. That's not a tiebreaker. It just says move down to a hex which has no British in it. That's the instruction. The tiebreakers are in square brackets. Now we need a tiebreaker because there are three possibilities here. So the first tiebreaker in square brackets says best cover. Well, all these hexes are clear hexes, and they therefore have the standard cover, which is basically a 6+ save. We haven't seen how that works yet, but that's they're all the same rating of cover. So then, still gives him a choice of 3, of course. So then he'll look, next tiebreaker is he wants to find higher ground. So now he'll move onto higher ground. Okay. And these tiebreakers work in order, and they narrow the options down as you go. So for example, if these two C hexes had actually been woods hexes, which do give cover, he wouldn't then, he'd still need a tiebreaker. So moving to best cover, he'd have a choice of 2 woods hexes. But that would discount this hex because that has no cover. The next tiebreaker would be move to higher ground, but if none of the woods are on higher ground, that won't help. He wouldn't then move to this higher ground because it's less cover than the 2 woods hexes, if that makes sense. So he would then take the third tiebreaker, which says furthest down. Now the furthest down hex is generally going to be this middle one, of course. Again, wouldn't help in that situation. So you would then have to choose randomly which one he moved into, just to show you how those tiebreakers work. So I've seen people, on sort of playthrough videos and comments and things, seem to get a bit confused by these tiebreakers. So you take them in order, and they're there to narrow down the options. Whilst ever there is an option, you still keep going with the tiebreakers, but only considering those hexes that are sort of still in play, if you like. But this one, all 3 there were best cover, all rubbish cover, but they're all the same cover. So he does take the second option, which is higher ground. So he'll move to the higher ground. And then it says whether he moved or not, find cover, but not in the sea. Well, he will find cover because he's out the sea. He's on effectively a clear hex, which is beach hex is a clear hex. So to find cover, which you find actually down here in the British section, but it's there nonetheless. Clear hex, he needs a 5+ to find cover, and that's a fail. So then we drop through to the HMG LMG bit. Again, this LMG will go first. He gets a 6, and that means he wants to fire, but still has nothing in his 3 lines of sight, so he can't see anything. HMG gets a 3, and again that's a fire order for him, so he won't move either. So he stays there in the shallow coastal water. I don't know what he's trying to do, trying to get his HMG out the boat or through the waves or whatever he's trying to do, I don't know. But he's getting a bit stuck there at the moment, which is good for us. And then we look at any German pin soldiers. There aren't any of those, so we ignore those. Fall through then to our turn, and we're still not in a position really where we can do a great deal, although having said that, this sniper is potentially in line of sight, of course, because he's up on the hill. So now these woods do not block line of sight to him in this column. So if we move our sniper across, we could actually have a shot at him, and that's probably something that's worth thinking about. In fact, I'm going to roll the dice and see what happens. Okay, so we're still rolling well for orders, a double 6 there. So we got a 6 orders for Corporal Smith. So I could move Private Hope across for 1 order, and then for 2 orders have him fire. Snipers cannot combine fire with anybody else, and we'll look at combined fire when the time arises. And it couldn't combine with the SMG anyway, because SMG only has a range of 2 hexes. The problem with putting the sniper in here is it puts him in the sights of this sniper, of course, for return fire. But yeah, he would be in fantastic cover here, and he's in dreadful cover there. So it's really a chance to get rid of that sniper. So I think I'm going to do this. So let's use 1 order to shuffle Private Hope across into this hex here, and he automatically picks up the benefit of this cover here. Okay, so you see the cover stays in a hex until the last soldier moves out, the last soldier of the side which found the cover, so this cover belongs to these guys. If a German guy moves into this hex, he won't have the benefit of this cover. We then need to sort of place it on here to show that, but that won't happen too often. So snipe moves, Hope moves over there, and then to fire the sniper takes 2 orders. So for 2 orders, Corporal Smith is going to order him to fire, and he gets 4 dice. You can see there when firing his sniper rifle, which has a range of 1 to 5. So only when there is somebody in his hex would he use his pistol, which still takes 2 orders, by the way, and he gets 1 die. So you really want to avoid being in the same hex as any Germans with Hope. He's got 4 dice. See what we can get. Remember, it's 5s and 6s we're interested in. And we have 2 6s. Okay, so we've got 2 6s, which are... it's tempting to call them hits, and I probably will as we go through the video. I mean, a lot of people do, but what they are actually is accurate shots. So that means that, you know, Hope's fired a few rounds at this guy, and there are 2 which are potentially heading straight for this sniper on the hill. So 2 of them are on target, and the sniper gets a chance to save them. And he has to save them both, because there are 2 things flying towards him. He's on a clear hex, so his save is 6+. Okay, so the basic save, it says here, basic save is 6+. You can improve that by being in terrain cover and by having found cover. That reduces that 6+ down to 5+, 4+, 3+, you know, right down to 2+ potentially, which is obviously a great save. He hasn't got any cover, so his basic save is 6+, which means he only saves on a 6. And unfortunately for him, there are 2 potential hits, 2 accurate shots. So he needs to save them both, so he needs to get double 6 to save himself from those shots. And he's been a bit unlucky there, because he saved one of them. So in other words, one of them has hit, you know, bounced off a rock on the sand dune or whatever it is he's crouching behind. The other one, unfortunately, has hit him clean between the eyes, and that guy has been removed. Okay. Good play. Hope cannot move, and he cannot shoot again. So we've got 3 orders left. Is there much else we want to do here? I have to say I'm a little tempted to try and get a mine in these woods, but it just means pushing people up into this. I could move here and then push Don there, but then we wouldn't have 1 action, 1 order, 2 orders. We wouldn't have enough to put a mine in here, which takes 2 orders in itself. That'd have to wait till next turn. But he does seem pretty well protected in there. It'd be unlucky to have anyone shoot at him. I think I might be tempted to try this, actually. This could be a kind of really helpful towards winning this scenario. Let's put Smith into there. You're going to take some risks in this game. So let's 1 order, we move Smith into there. Another order, move Don out to there. I mean, if Smith could have stayed there, moved on there for 1, but of course he then couldn't order him to lay the line, lay the mine, because he's not next to him anymore. So we will move Smith up, I think. And we got 1 more. So let's have Don look for some cover. It's from, I mean, it's a clear hex, it's unlikely, but 5+ to find some cover. He actually finds it. So he actually finds it. So Smith, Private Don manages to, I don't know, crouch down by, you know, the edge of the road behind a small bush or whatever it might be, but something there is giving him just a little bit extra cover. So rather than a 6+ save, which he would have, which the sniper had, remember in a clear hex, he would have a 6+ save. This would reduce that down to 5+, which is quite a big difference, really. Over this side, now we've got this Messerschmitt to deal with, haven't we? Forgot about that. I've been talking so much about what the Germans had done and so on. This Messerschmitt arrived, didn't it? So we've got to deal with this. So 2 things we can do. We can either have a go at shooting it down, or we can move these guys out of the way. Now, moving people out of the way is fine. You know, you just thematically, we just, you know, there's a Messerschmitt in the distance coming at us. Let's just run out of the way, and they run and hide or whatever. But obviously, it uses up quite a lot of orders that you'd rather be doing other things with usually. Now at least I can move Davis back. Let's just see what Beck gets first of all. I've rolled a 1 again, so obviously I'm going to re-roll that, and I've rolled another 1. So Beck's only got 1 order, so that's actually potentially a bit disastrous. I think what we'll do is, there's no point trying to move someone back now. I mean, we could move someone back and then have Hull come over and order him to fire, but that, you know, that would leave Hull potentially in the way if he doesn't shoot him down. This has just caused a bit of a mess here. So what we're going to do, I think, is push Davis out there with that 1. That's all we can do with Beck. And then Hull, hopefully, he won't roll triple 1 again like he did before. He doesn't. He gets 4 orders. So he's now going to order Johns to move out there as well, and Beck, in fact. So he orders the whole bar team out there. That's 2 orders. They lose this cover because the last man has moved out of it, so that cover's gone. I think, yeah, split the team slightly, but let's push Ali into there with Mills. That's for 1. Can't order any of these to find cover because he's not in range of ordering anymore. They're all in cover. He's only got 1 action, so not much else we can do, so we'll leave it there. We can effectively lose that action. You can't carry them across to the next turn or anything. So that's us done. Now it's a Messerschmitt phase. There's nobody in this column now, so that flies by, but it does live to come another time. So, you know, effectively it's flying around in the sky. It's gone down in the, another section of the beach for a minute or 2. No doubt it'll be back later in the game. And that means we move on to turn 4. And certainly the lack of Germans is helping us here, I think. Let's see what happens this time. Okay, rolled a 7. Okay, 7 is A plus A. And that is a rifle guy with grenades. So let's get a couple of those. That's a sort of standard German infantry guy, if you like. Equipped with a rifle and hand grenades. And there are 2 of those, but remember this is process number 1, and we still got to do process number 2, even though we're placing 2 guys, just because it happens to say A plus A. So then we place these. We can roll 2 dice for them to place them at the same time. You know, 2 and 6, so because they're the same type of guy, aren't they? So 2 goes in there at 6, and then the second process gives us a 10, which is another officer. Wow. And he comes at 2, okay, so you can just squeeze in that hex because the limit per hex is 3, so he can squeeze into there. So officers galore. So let's see what happens this time. And this is the longest I've ever played this game without actually any action taking place. That's because usually by now you've usually got a beach flooded with riflemen and riflemen with the grenade launchers and SMG guys and all, you know, charging down the beach at you. But for some reason in this game we haven't. So let's go with, there's no one engaged with any British, so let's pick out the officers. So we're going to go with this guy first, being furthest forward. He gets a 3. He wants to fire. That means fire his main gun, which is SMG. He can't do that because the range of that is only 2, and you can only see he's on there and onto this hill here. And back there is nobody, obviously no British there. You can't do that. It says if there is no target, move down. Again, one of these 2 hexes here, to a hex which has no British. Yeah, so either of those 2. It's got a choice here, so we need some tiebreakers. The tiebreakers are best cover. Well, there's no cover on there. And then furthest down. Well, this hex is furthest down than this hex, so he will move to there. And there's nothing on there about him looking for cover or anything, so that's all he does. The other officer gets a 5, which says move down, but only to a woods or buildings hex. Whether he moved or not, find cover, but not in the sea, so he won't do anything else. They're the 2 officers done. The sniper's gone, of course. Got rid of him. Oh, sorry, we did see some action, didn't we? We sniped the sniper. We did. Thought about that. Then we got the German rifle guys and SMGs. So we've got these 2 rifle guys here. So we're going to go front to back, remember, then left to right. They're on the same, they're equally far down. So we'll go with this guy first. Roll a die. Gets a 5. It says move to any adjacent hex. So it's any of the 6 around him. You know, if you're here, you've got 6 around you. You've only got 3. So move into any of those hexes, which has 1 or 2 British on it, and then assault. Okay, well, there are no British in any of adjacent hexes, so we can't do that. says if he cannot move an assault as above, then move straight down, okay, in the same column only. As a reminder on this one, because I could fit that in. So he's going to move straight down, the same column only. And then whether he moved or not, fire, okay. And it says, but for clarity, not if he assaulted. Well, that's fine, yeah. So he's going to fire. Now he's got a range, his rifle gives him a range of 0 to 3. It says no British down that line of sight, or that one obviously, but straight down, 1, 2, 3, he's got Private Don in his sights. Now earlier on when I said it's highly unlikely that Don would come under any fire, this is the only situation he could have come under fire. That is, if a rifle guy appeared in column 2 and then rolled a 5 or 6, which means he would have moved down and then fired. And that's exactly what happened. So he's moved down to there, and then he's going to fire. So he's only got one target, which is Don. 1, 2, 3 hexes away, so the limit of his range. He can see over these trees because he's on higher ground, and he will get 2 dice. Okay, so German riflemen fire with 2 dice. The British rifle guys fire with 1 die, just the same as it was in Omaha. And that's, remember, just to reflect the fact that the Germans never get the advantage of combined fire, which the British do, which adds bonus dice. So this guy fires with 2 dice. Now he's on higher ground than his target, and therefore he will re-roll any 1s at this stage. Remember, he's looking for 5s or 6s only, and he gets a 1 and a 6. Okay, so the 6 is a potential hit. It's an accurate shot, remember, and the 1 is re-rolled because he's on higher ground, and that comes out as a pin. Okay, that's disastrous for us in a way, or at least not great. So we always deal with hits first, or accurate shots. So Don gets a chance to save that, and he's going to save that to avoid getting injured. He will have a basic 6+ cover for being on a clear hex, but he's improved it by finding cover. So he needs a 5+ to save. He gets a 4, which means he's hit, and therefore injured, which is exactly what I didn't want. So I was going to play it cautiously down this side, and maybe putting my engineer out in the open wasn't as cautious as I should have been. But the chances of that guy appearing and then doing that were pretty slim. He's still also got a pin. So Private Don is also pinned. Now, I'm not going to be able to heal him, not for a long time anyway, because Ali is right over here, and you know, getting him across here is tricky. You know, no one can cross the bridge at the moment, really, with this LMG sat there, looking straight down there. So he, you know, not ideal. Not ideal. So he's done that, and that's the outcome of that. So the 1s are re-rolled when you're on higher ground, but only once. If you roll another 1, we wouldn't have re-rolled it again. And the last guy to activate then is this rifle guy over here. He gets a 3, and that says that he wants to do a grenade launcher attack. Well, he has no grenade launcher. A grenade launcher is a GL, a separate unit. So there's GL on it. The enemy chart will tell you when to place those. It says if he has no grenade launcher or no target for a grenade launcher, if he does have one, then fire his rifle or SMG. So he wants to fire. Remember, his range is 3, so he can only get to there, and he can get to there. So he can't see past this hill actually. So he can only shoot to here or here. It says if still has no target, which he doesn't, then move down to a hex which has no British on it. So again, he's moved down to one of these 2 hexes. He's looking for the tiebreakers are best cover, higher ground, there isn't any, furthest down, so he again will move there. Okay, so he gets onto the beach, and there's nothing about taking any cover. And that, I think, is the end of that, at the end of their turn, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, no, it's not. We're talking about got LMGs and HMG, haven't we? So this LMG gets a 6. He wants to fire. Again, he can't because there's no target for him. I should actually have been missing that, I think. It says fire, but then it says if no target, find cover. Not in the sea. And that may have been him mostly, but he now is not in the sea, so he can actually find cover. So he's not got a target, so he'll find cover, but the 1 means he won't find cover. He needs a 5+ on that clear hex to find cover. So that's good. And the HMG gets a 5. He still wants to fire. He's desperate to get into the action, but he can't do anything from there. HMGs need a 1 or 2 to move. So as soon as he rolls a 1, it's still a 1 in 3 chance. So he should by now, you'd have thought, moved out of there, but he hasn't. So that's probably good for me. Certainly don't want him on this hill. End of German turn, over to us. We will go with, let's do Smith. It's got a bit messy over here. So we've got 4. I think we're going to have to rally Don. So you rally for 3 orders. Okay, so that takes 3 of the 4 orders to rally Don. Because when a soldier is pinned, they cannot do anything other than rally. It's all they can do. They can't move, they can't attack, they can't plant mines or look for cover or anything. It's clearly here it says pinned, rally only. So we've rallied him, so now at least he can do stuff. But he's also injured, and when someone's injured, all they can do is move and rally. So we're now going to order him to move back. In fact, he's going to move back over here, I think, out of harm's way from their sniper. So let's do that. So I pushed all them out of the way for some reason. So let's move Don. So Don has rallied and moved back there. So, it's a bit of a defensive response to the sniper fire, the rifle fire, but there we go. Okay, let's go over here. Beck, he's rolled 6 orders. So we're going to keep this move up. Let's keep moving. Let's put them in there actually for 2 orders, and then let's have them find cover in there. 3+ in the woods, yeah, that's good. So they're pretty safe in there. We'll try and go in the bunker next time. Beck himself is going to move over here, I think, for 1. And then he is going to put Mills in the bunker for 1. Yeah, he's adjacent to Mills. So send Mills into there, and then Mills is going to look for cover in there, and cover in a bunker is just 2+. He rolls a 3, so he finds it. You should be able to find cover in a bunker, shouldn't you? And he does. Okay. So again, thematically that means rather than just being in the trench, perhaps just outside the bunker or just around the back of it or whatever, he's actually in it, but also at the one of the little shooty holes, and perhaps a good one that's got good view and stuff. Whatever, I'm sure you'll think of your own backstory to these things, but he's in there and he's found cover, so he's now in a great, very secure position. Finally then, let's do Sergeant Hull with his 3 dice. So he gets 5 orders, and he is going to what's he going to do? We'd probably actually let's move Hull up to there as well. A bit consider having them in a clear hex, but let's put him in there for now, because then he can get Johns into the bunker. Yeah, this is where I sometimes need to think forward a little bit more, I think, because if I'd have done that, there's no point finding cover though. He might be able to use that some other how, but maybe not. And then I think he'll put Davis in the bunker as well. So he moved them too. So 5, 4, 3, 2 orders left, and I think he'll order Beck. Try and find cover on this clear hex at 5 or 6. We do, which is good. Bit of protection there, and yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? Can't really do much else. Do we pull? Just concerned if he moves there, he's going to get a shot at Ali, isn't he? I don't really. Do we want that? He's in a building, I suppose. Maybe we can risk that. Even if I pulled him back there, he'd still be shooting at me. Yeah, let's leave it. It's me done. There's no Messerschmitts. So we can move to turn 5. Let's do the German process again. So we're going to take 2 dice. What time are we at on the video? 58 minutes. Shall we leave that there and do another one? Yeah, I think we will. Okay guys, I'm going to stop it there. I'll get another one up pretty soon with the next few turns on. Hopefully be able to finish on the next one with a bit of luck. Cheers.